Hello, my name is Eddey, and we are going to talk about the immune system today. And specifically, we're going to focus on two types that you've probably heard of. One of them is called the T cells, and one of them is called the B cells. Now, before we get into the minutiae of the immune system, we've got to talk about what the immune system does, and it does more than you think it does. The first thing is, yep, it kills viruses and bacteria, you know that. But what it also does is it looks for self and non-self and attacks non-self things. So it looks like genes that aren't made up of itself, like a parasite, have got different genes, and it will attack that. Now, the $65 million question is, how does it go about killing large parasites, and how does it kill things extremely tiny like viruses? Well, we have these specialized parts of the immune system called B cells, and we have T cells. We have other parts like complement and all this other stuff. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the B cells and the T cells. And the first thing we want to talk about is where they get their names from. Well, the T cells are like the white cells, and they mature in the thymus. And the little T for thymus is where you get the name T cell from. And then you've got the B cells, which are in the bone marrow and the blood, and that's where you get Bs from. Now, they have two different major properties. Now, for example, let's start talking about the white blood cells, or the T lymphocytes. Now, you've got a range of those, and we haven't got time in this very short segment to go through them. One day we'd love to do a big hour-long podcast on all the minutiae of the immune system, but the T cells are really, really fascinating. The first thing we have to know about a T cell is that they have to know what they are attacking. Okay, you don't want them attacking your own body. Now, sometimes they do, of course, and the T cell mediated autoimmune diseases are quite severe, like the one I had, and multiple sclerosis and type 1 diabetes, Hashimoto's disease, and all these other autoimmune diseases when the T cells don't do what they're supposed to do. So today we're going to focus on what they are supposed to do. All right, so let's say you get a virus in your body. You've got a rhinovirus that's come out of your nose and into your bloodstream, and it's giving you a common cold, which is what a rhinovirus does. Okay, so a virus is an extremely tiny bit of either DNA or RNA, and it goes into the cells and invades them and causes the cell to become sick and die. Now, what happens is, of course, is you've got these other cells that come along and they engulf these cells. They're called antigen-presenting cells, or APCs. Okay, and what these cells do, surprise, surprise, is they present the antigen. So they engulf this virus that is inside a cell, and they engulf it, and then they spit out and says, look, this is what I've found, guys. It's called Mr. Rhinovirus. And what it does is it presents it to these other T cells called the T helper cells. And the T helper cells then go through and say, rightio, what part of the immune system will attack that? Well, if it's a virus, the T helper 1 part of the immune system will attack the virus. And if it's a parasite, T helper 2. And if it's a fungus inside your gut, T helper 17. So there's all these different branches of the T cells. And they go out and they form all these armies of mass destruction and look for that particular antigen and kill it. You don't want them running wild and causing inflammation throughout the body, because you'll get sick. And indeed, the inflammatory process that you feel when you've got the cold and flu, the aches and pains, is due to the T cells going nuts and driving up something called interleukin-2, which is a chemical messenger which drives around and drives that part of the immune system up. Now, of course, these antigen-presenting cells also present the antigen to another type of cell, and they're called the B cells. Now, they both work together, T and B cells. They do interlock. I've got a graphic in this paper here that we can put up on the screen later and show you how they interweave with each other and talk to each other and say, okay, Mr. or Mrs. B cell, there's something going on here. I want you to turn into what we call a plasma cell. And then the plasma cells secrete these things called antibodies. Now, you've probably heard of antibodies. Antibodies are things that go out and bind with things and basically attack things. So you've got 5 types of these antibodies: the IgGs, the IgAs, the IgMs, the IgEs, and the IgDs. Now, a lot of things to remember there. I'm sorry, it's a complex system. We've only got a number of minutes here. So basically, these Ig antibodies, of course, you might have heard of IgE antibodies. Now, what they do is they go out and they bind to mast cells in your body and degranulate. And what does that mean? It means that your body produces mucus to flush the, whatever it is, in this case, let's say it's a big parasite, to flush the parasite out of the body. Because if you've got a big parasite in your gut and you produce a lot of mucus in your gut, the little parasite sticking onto the, grabbing onto the gut wall gets flushed away by all this mucus. Because remember, parasites can be literally that big. So, it's going to be a big long worm thing. So our microscopic immune system won't attack that. So the body uses the B cells via the Ig antibodies to bind to mast cells, degranulate the mast cells, release histamine, and you get this flushing reaction and you get a runny nose. And that's why you may have been to a pharmacy before and got an antihistamine. Have you heard of that? Well, that histamine stops the runny noses. So if you've got an allergy due to a florist or something else going on that's, or something you're allergic to, then that's why you take antihistamines like Claritine, and they'll reduce the histamine reaction. So you've also got these IgMs, and they are memory cells. So that you produce antibodies to say, rightio, we've encountered this virus, and we're going to produce these memory cells to go out and memorize that this thing's attacked us. So when it comes again, we are ready to attack it. Now, the T cells do that too, and they have a type of T cell called memory T cells. So once you've been infected with, for example, the measles, like I have when I was an infant, which was, in 1847, then I won't get the measles again because I have got these long-lived T cells. So it's incredible, the immune system. It firstly identifies what's coming. It sends out the right troops to attack it. And then, of course, it memorizes it so it doesn't come back and haunt you again. And that's why I don't get the measles again. That's why vaccines and how they work and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you all again next week. Thank you very much.